of things. I guess they thought I wouldn't make it. I guess they thought I would fall on my face and just stay there. But baby, that's just not who I am.
Welcome back to another episode of the From Grief to Purpose podcast. As always, I am your host, Minnina, aka Nina Smith. Listen, I'm so excited, you guys. I'm so excited. I'm so thankful. We have made it to a point in our podcast where we get to take a season break. Okay. We are getting ready to go into a season break. We have recorded over 103 episodes of the podcast. You'll see probably 103, 104 on our YouTube channel. It goes beyond that on our audio podcast. We started off as that Dose of Encouragement podcast, and we transitioned to the From Grief to Purpose podcast. So a lot of our audio was under that Dose of Encouragement. Is no longer listed, but the podcast episodes that we have, both audio and available on YouTube, are still listed. So wherever you listen to your podcast, or if you listen to it here on YouTube, we have been, doing our thing. So I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to have started the podcast. I am grateful just for the process in general. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of prayer, a lot of, pushing myself to be consistent with the podcast. It's been a lot of transparency on my part. It's been fun. It's been fun. And I've got the opportunity to meet some great people. And on that note, so before we dive in, before I go any further, I want to just, before I discuss anything about what's next, because we're going to talk about that a little bit too, about what the next season is going to look like. I want to just take a pause for just a second and say thank you. Thank you to my followers, and thank you so much to every single one of my guests who have, joined me throughout the duration of the podcast this far. Thank you for trusting me, first of all, with your stories, for showing up with your truth, and for allowing me to step into your world. I truly appreciate that. I am beyond grateful for every conversation, every moment, and every piece of wisdom that was shared right here on this platform. Again, when I tell you I've been truly blessed by every single guest that I have had, I mean that. I've been truly blessed. I've learned a lot from each and every single one of you. So this season has been full. Okay. I cannot wait to see what God is going to do with the next season, because this particular season has been really full. I mean, we've talked about a lot over the span of the podcast here. We've, had several healing conversations that really needed to take place, not just only in what I wanted to do for the podcast and for my life too, but I hope that it blessed you all as well. These episodes that we had, the opportunity, and the guests that I had the opportunity to share with you all. So, I mean, we just spoke on from, the many forms of grief to how it shows up in our everyday lives, our careers changes, identity shifts. We touched on relationships, and, even our own individual purpose. So we had powerful conversations, again, which I'm truly thankful for, about healing from trauma, rediscovering who we are we, and walking courageously into our next chapter. How do we do that, after we've survived, traumatic events? So we have definitely just talked, we've talked about the real stuff. Grief styles is not an easy conversation to have, grief period. And grieving is not an easy conversation to have, especially, when you don't particularly have the language to express it. So that's where I really, truly wanted to show up with the podcast From Grief to Purpose, and just touch a little bit on grief, because I know grief is such a hard conversation for some to have. I found myself in that place a portion in my life earlier on, especially when my mother passed away, just not really knowing how to communicate what I was feeling and what I was going through. So as I have come to this place in my own personal life, done my own work, done, the healing, and healing is continuously. So when I say healing and healing work, I'm talking about actually getting to the root of, why I feel the way that I feel. So I wanted to just put, this out there as a platform for others as well to have a space to listen to other people that have gone through some of the same things that you probably have gone through as well. So, some other things that we touched on were self loss. We talked about caregiving because that's a big thing as well. We find ourselves in these roles, these caregiving roles where we're taking care of our loved ones. But at the end of the day, that caregiver role is still a very big role. And you want to make sure that you're also taking care of yourself. So go back and be sure to watch that episode. There's 2 episodes, I believe, where we touched on caregiving. We talked about addiction and recovery as well. That was a very good episode, as I got a chance to interview a gentleman, Mojo. Gentleman, his name is Mojo, and his story was overcoming the addiction of opioids. What else did we talk about? We talked about, of course, we're gonna talk about faith. We gonna talk about God, because we can't do it without the Lord. I definitely can't do it without God. What else? We talked about, of course, our pain, our own personal journeys with different things that we just face in life. We touched a bit on fatherhood, also loss, and the ways people rebuild after it all, because sometimes you just don't hear those conversations either. And when I say you don't hear them, I'm talking about on podcasts, or maybe within your family groups or your friend groups, or sometimes those are just groups. Try to touch on those topics that the groups of people that you may not even think about, like what does the spouse do after their spouse passes away? What do you do? How are you living? How are you feeling? How are you showing up to the world? How are you showing up for yourself, and so forth? What else did we talk about? What else did we talk about? As I'm looking at my notes, we talked about just the way people's look with an S, the way people rebuild after all of it, all of that we just said. How do you rebuild after that? How do you rebuild after your pain? How do you rebuild after trauma? How do you do that? So it's so important to me during the podcast as it transitioned to get those coaches in, get those counselors in, to get those therapists in, to get those spiritual advisors in. And when I say spiritual advisors, I'm talking about the ones that believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. But it was important for me to touch on that, the spiritual, the mental, the physical, how all of that affects us, mind, body, soul, and spirit, because and then how do we transition? How do we heal from that? Because sometimes, people just don't know. I found myself, in spaces and places and times and seasons of my life where I've gone through something very, hard, very painful, very traumatic. And then I just don't know. Like, I just don't know how to bounce back. I just don't have, the words for it. I don't have the know how to get from point A to point B. So my thought process was wrapped around I need to get, I want guests that are willing and able to come on to the podcast and have real conversations, to come onto the podcast and teach and educate. Because there are people out there that do this and they do it for real. They are, they've gone to school for this. They have their degrees for this. And this is what they specialize in, to be able to teach others and show up for others and serve others so that you can, live, your best life and live out your life in a way that you should be living it. So what else did we get into, or what should I speak on? Some of my guests shared transformational stories as well. Absolutely. I had a gentleman on that he discussed his journey from gangs to God's purpose. So a big shout out to him as well. His story was definitely transformational. He was a young man who, went into prison at a young age, and his testimony was absolutely just powerful. And so go back, and I'm looking up the video to where you can go back and check that out, because it was a while back. It was about 9 months ago, 10 months ago. If y'all hear this, the YouTube, the music playing in the background, I'm just looking for that particular video now. But go back and check his testimony out, especially if you've been through a particular similar situation. You've been to jail, you've been to prison, and you just feel like, well, how do I come up? His name is Joey Vargas Zapata. He's actually a mentor. He is a life coach. He's a chaplain. So he has, when I tell you, has a powerful testimony. He has a powerful testimony. So I'm so thankful to have him on the podcast as well. What else? We talked about a lot. We were able to cover a lot. I was able to get a lot of different guests on, and that was my goal, just to have different types of conversations to try to um, reach the people that could identify with the From Grief to Purpose podcast where they may be at. We had conversations on, healing from trauma, rediscovering again who you are, how to walk and show up for yourself, how to show up for a life, how to show up for your children, your family after all of that you have been through. And what else did we discuss? It was just so much that we talked about. And I'm just looking off at my notes here because I want to make sure I cover it all and give credit to where credit is due. But through it all, I just, showed up to the podcast, as best as I could. Let me say it like that. Being a beginner podcaster, I was trying to, try not to be too perfect. I have I like things to be, of course, I like to present a good quality presentation, but I just wanted to make sure that we were putting out quality work. But again, it's been a journey, but my whole mindset, excuse me, if you will, was just to sit back also and to learn myself, to grow, to gain the knowledge and wisdom from the guests that I had on when I had guests, and just to show up myself and be authentic and to try to educate or teach in the way that I could, if I was able to teach or educate on anything that I was or had that I had knowledge about. What else do I want to say here before before we go into the details about the season break? I think I do want to definitely say again, I have to just stress this. I don't take any one of my guests. I don't take you all for granted. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say that enough. So as we step into this particular season break, I don't know when I'll be back with the podcast. It might be January. I'm shooting for January of next year, 2026, but it may be a little later. I just know when we return, we are coming back, even stronger, with great guests. We had great guests before. We're going to have greater guests. They're going to be, coming up with more real conversations, just, continuing to provide this space so that we can grow together, heal together, learn together. Definitely coming back with more purposeful, transformational conversations, more conversations about healing and so forth. So I'm excited. I'm definitely excited about this particular season that we're going to be coming up this next season. But in the meantime, please make sure that you catch up on past episodes if you haven't already. And if you're already a follower, share these episodes with your friend, especially if you know it's something that they can relate to. Because there's too many people out here going through things alone, and you don't have to go through your pain alone. You don't have to walk that journey by yourself. We're here to walk alongside of you. I also want to put out that I do, check out my website, www.thatdoseofencouragement.com. I have a host of, underneath my directory, therapists, coaches on the directory that you can reach out to. If you need a therapist, reach out to a therapist. But please be sure to talk to someone, especially we're coming up on the holiday season. Sometimes the holiday season, excuse me, are the roughest seasons that you can, go through. We got Thanksgiving coming up. We have Christmas coming up. So if you've experienced a loss of any sort, loss of family, loss of jobs, reach out and connect with someone. There's a lot of insurance there are a lot of therapists, excuse me, that are covered underneath your insurance. So please just be mindful just to reach out, connect, because I definitely don't want you to try to do this process called life, because life can be hard sometimes by yourself. So there's so much more. I really don't have too much more to say, but I did want to be sure that I dropped one more episode before we took our season break. Once again, make sure you go back, catch up on these past episodes if you haven't already. Watch them, rewatch them. Shoot me an email if you need to, Minnina Smith at thatdoseofencouragement.com. Everything will be left in the description. There's so much encouragement, seriously though, in those stories of the past podcast episodes. I don't want you to miss out. And I truly believe that no matter where you are, okay, you guys, no matter where you are on your healing journey, something in those episodes will speak to you. I promise you, something in those episodes will speak to you. Because as I was, doing an episode myself or interviewing a guest for sure, I was, wanting to take so many notes. So it will definitely speak to you. I'll be still posting, once again, like I said, a few shorts and updates here and there to keep you all updated. But, definitely I want to stay connected with you all. So stay tuned. And thank you so much for listening as the episode has been on. Thank you so much for supporting, sharing, and growing with me this season. I truly appreciate it. Again, when we come back, it's going to be another amazing season. I cannot wait to see what we do. I can't wait to see what God has in store for us, either through the next season of the podcast. You as well, followers, once again, thank you. You are the reason that this platform, is growing and continues to thrive. And together we are proof of that. And I want you all to just be reminded. I have to often remind myself of this as well, but there is purpose after pain. All right, you guys, until next season, you all be blessed, stay encouraged, stay grounded, and always remember, healing is not the end of your story. Okay. It is not the end. It's the beginning of a new one. All right. All right. You guys. I don't want to let you go. All right, you guys. Y'all be blessed.